Hi there, I'm Bill DeYoung from the St. Pete Catalyst. This is once again, the Catalyst Sessions. It is show number, I want to say 115 today. We started this at the dawn of the coronavirus, thinking, well, we'd go a couple of weeks, maybe a month, month and a half, to keep ourselves connected to one another. And here we are, and it's the middle of September. It's show 115. You're sick of looking at me, but I'm not sick of doing this because I get to talk to wonderful, wonderful people every day. To wit, today our guests are Staci Sabarsky, who's the Executive Director of Innovocative Theater in Tampa, Florida, and Mr. Owen Robertson, who is, of course, Owen, who is the Executive Director of Lab Theater Project over in Tampa. Hello, you guys.
Hello.
Hi, Bill.
You guys have something really special coming up. It's called Underneath the Lintel, and I will tell you that I had to look up the word lintel. It was kind of like a Shane Madel from last year. But there's a little pronunciation on, how do you pronounce this? And the voice goes, lintel, lintel. And so I memorized it. And then I read about the show, saw that Richard Schaff had done it. And, I guess that's his name, from the West Wing. And they're doing, okay. Let me stop babbling, okay? They're doing a show called Underneath the Lintel, September 24th through 27th. And they're doing it live at Lab Theater's place in Ybor City with 10 seats?
Yep.
10 seats.
Yeah, we normally can seat 45, but because of social distancing, we keep it down to 10.
What's the, you normally can seat what?
45?
I don't know, I'm having a thing here. 45. So it's basically 2 here, 2 there, a couple in the middle, and that's the whole thing?
Pretty much, yeah.
Well, the deal is really that it's also being live streamed, and that's kind of our concession to what's going on these days. And first, before we get there, let me ask you both. Owen, say something. I'm wondering what I'm getting on this audio thing.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine. I'm not sure I'm seeing you, but I have a little master switch here. It's very likely I'm just screwing it up. So we'll just start this way. Tell me about this show. I was in a play a few years ago called The Man from Earth, which kind of spans the centuries, if you will, with an enigmatic main character who is a great mystery to it. Owen, why don't you tell us what this show is about?
Well, on the surface, the show is about the discovery of a book returned to the librarian 113 years late. And it causes the librarian some consternation. He's disturbed by this, as librarians are wont to be about books being returned on time.
So does he want to go collect his $3?
Well, actually, you know what the funny thing? We actually roughly calculated it actually would come out to about $2,500 in late fees, going by 1986 fines and everything like that. But he becomes bothered by it because of how long it's been checked out. And then as he begins investigating and exploring the person who checked out the book, because as he says, we librarians keep all the records, he starts to discover clues about the identity of this person that checked out the book, and that this person seems to be more than what one would think. It's not a book that was checked out by a family member, but possibly this is an individual who might be immortal and wandering this earth, but can't really ever expose himself. And then along the way, through the course of his investigations, he starts to hear this possibility that there's a myth associated with him, and I'm being vague on purpose.
Yeah, no.
Give away the story,
but it's intriguing. It's got that kind of Twilight Zone vibe to it, like
it does have a
Meredith
Twilight Zone vibe, but then
breaking his glasses.
As the play kind of progresses, it's a little more. It gets philosophical, and it gets and it gets lightly philosophical and humorous and touching, and kind of journeys along the way, asking about who are we in our existence, but it does it in a trying to unravel a mystery along the way.
Well, it's a one-person show, right? And you are the librarian.
Yeah, I am the librarian.
But there are no other actors in it, right? So, hey, William Shakespeare, what do you have to say? Do you have to play other characters, or?
I represent other characters.
You don't have to give away any characters.
It's not like he has conversations with other people.
Mm-hmm.
But he tells other stories, or gives accountings of things. So
Wow.
I take on some roles of that way.
This show is, I honestly can't remember. I looked it up, but it's not that old. I mean, it's not like a 50s sort of Outer Limits kind of thing, or, because people were having all those kind of great philosophical moments in those days, like, what is the meaning of life?
Yeah.
And so what era is it from? It's maybe the 2000s, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, the play was written, I think, in 2001.
I think it was 2001.
What's happening here, I figured this out, you guys, because I have no technological ability whatsoever, is that because you're in the same room, I can't get a close-up on Owen when he's talking, because Staci is something. Your mic is picking up his voice, and people who are watching this have no friggin' idea what I'm talking about. And so,
as long as they can see and hear us, I guess that's the
except they have to look at me too, and I'm trying to get myself off the screen, but we'll deal. I have spoken with the lovely Miss Sabarsky numerous times, and about the origins of Innovocative and what they're trying to do over there. But Owen, this is my first time learning about lab theater. So give me a little history. Tell me about yourself and about what the organization is doing, and what you're trying to do.
So I've been doing theater since the mid 80s, and at various levels and everything. But Lab came to be as part of a kind of a inspired out of my MFA program in playwriting and screenwriting. And part of that being because the chair of my program was the founder of the New Jersey Playwrights Theater. So Buzz, we kind of got talking about it, and I got to thinking about there's not really a place for new playwrights to get their work featured in Florida, or really the Southeast when I started this in 2015.
Well, here and there, certainly. But so is that entirely what the organization does?
Everything that we do is an original work. It's never been performed, and it's workshopped by us. We usually are in anywhere from a 6 to 3 month process with the script and with the playwright. And we go through, we work with the playwright, we cast it, we give the playwright readings, opportunities for revisions, until ultimately we come to a working script that we agree upon, and that's what we're going to work with, and that's what we produce.
It's interesting to me, as a sort of a very pointed direction that you took. Why? I mean, was there some point when you say, I don't really want to do, I can do the old war horses, I can do new and edgy works, which is what, Staci, it's what everybody, they do some variation on it. But to go the extra mile, why? And do that.
Well, you're kind to say the extra mile. Some would say I'm digging a deeper hole to try and get out.
All right, I stand corrected.
Opening a theater company is a risky venture on its own. Under normal circumstances. But I chose the new works path because sitting in the cohort of my fellow writers and everything like that, we all just talked about how difficult the path is. And I felt like I was like, well, you know what? By the time I'm done with this degree from this program, there's going to be 40 of us. And I'm like, that's an incredible pool to start from. And so that's kind of how the company started. A lot of the work that we did early has been out of the MFA cohort. But it's been about, I chose this niche to live in with Lab because I love the idea of working with new work and working with emerging playwrights and being able to have the opportunity to say, I knew them when, or, having that work published and it says, in that front page, originally produced Lab Theater Project.
Oh, yeah. Well, but it's a hell of a lot of work, isn't it? I mean, it's a lot of extra.
It is an amazing amount of work.
And they can't all be great. I mean, you were saying, I knew them when. There might be a time when you go, God, I wish I could forget that one.
Yeah, and I would be lying if I didn't say that there are some that have come across my path that I've kind of gone. But one of the big things that we live in Lab is the concept of growing as artists. That's what we live with. That's our main focus and main goal. So even if the piece and that playwright maybe wasn't great and it doesn't go on to something, if we help move that playwright forward, then we did what we set out to do.
Very nice. Do you write?
I do. We've produced a couple of my plays already in the company, and in fact, for next season, we have one of my other plays is up for next season as well, which is a play called Creating Monsters, which is about the story of Mary Shelley in the creating of Frankenstein.
Oh, that's great. That's one of yours.
Yeah.
Brilliant. What did COVID do to you?
What did COVID do? Well,
not to you personally. Not that that's not fascinating, because they're all.
No. So
but to the company, I mean, how did it throw you off your game?
Oh, in a big way. We were originally the resident company at the Silver Meteor. And then when the Silver Meteor shut down to move and renovate and become into its new space, we wound up homeless and looking for a home. And in January of 2020, we signed a lease on a new space.
Great timing.
I'm going to let you laugh and take that in, and everybody else
Great timing, exactly.
And we had a plan to, and forgive this because it just gets funnier. We were going to open April 1st.
You've had a hell of a year so
March
far.
11th,
hey, there's a full moon coming, and on a Friday the 13th coming, and so maybe you got.
March 11th rolled around, and we were dead in the water, and we started to kind of regroup and replan, and we did a kind of rushed emergency fundraising, and got some monies in from patrons and donors, and we're able to kind of limp our way into mid-May, where we started to talk about it and say, all right, let's figure out how we survive. And somewhere about the end of May or June, restrictions started to loosen and things like that. We hadn't gotten into the massive spike of the summer. And we came up and we said, well, let's do socially distanced seating and live streaming. And so we did our first show, The Meredith Brothers, that way. And it was fairly successful for us. We learned a lot. We've learned a lot that we're applying with the help of co-proing with Staci onto this show. And hopefully going forward, we'll carry that knowledge forward.
What did you learn?
Sorry?
More lights?
I'm sorry, I couldn't quite hear you.
I'm just wondering what you said. We learned a lot. What did you learn?
Well, for one thing,
make sure everything's plugged in. I mean, it either works.
So, I mean, for Meredith Brothers, we learned a lot more about, working with a single camera, and that's not as effective, and not ideal. And learning about the technology of live streaming. Obviously, it's something we'd never dealt with or have to do as a theater company, and trying to figure out how to do that and the challenges that go along with that. Dealing with the challenges of theatrical lighting versus cinematographic lighting, and doing lighting, film and camera. Very different beast.
Let me throw it over to Staci here for a minute. When we talked, it was July, and you were doing Natural Shocks, which was, again, a one-woman thing that was very much cut out to be done virtually. I haven't talked to you since then. I didn't see it. How did it go?
It went really well. It was really well received. And like Owen said, we too learned a lot. We kind of jumped in and said, we're going to do it. We're going to try it. We're going to see what happens. And we thought we'd just dip our foot in the pool, but we really jumped in. And so it really worked because the script really worked for us this way. Likewise, this script works in a way because the
it's live, folks.
Oh, so sorry. Okay, well, let's let him turn that off for a sec.
Wow, the special effects didn't work, you guys.
Okay. Oh, so we're still. All right, we're gonna have to turn that off, I think.
Maybe can you guys sit together? Or is that too weird? Do we have to do masks, or maybe you could get on the same computer?
Turn your microphone off.
Or turn your mic off and shout. I can't hear you at all.
No.
How's that
Lot
say that-
now?
yeah, that works. Let's do it.
Can you hear us both?
Yeah, except you're still like on an episode of Lost in Space here.
Is that any better?
Yes, better.
Yay!
Okay, so you were saying.
That's the joys of live, see, you learn. That's what we're saying. This show, in many ways, works as a live presentation, as a live stream as well, because in some ways it's kind of like a TED Talk. The librarian is giving this presentation to his audience on all of the evidence that he has found along the way as he's been chasing this, the owner of the overdue book. So it works because he's basically, the premise is he's rented this theater space to give his presentation and share what he's learned.
Right, yeah, I read that, yeah.
Yeah, so it, again, obviously different premise, but it really works as far as live streaming, and we're gonna be able to show some slides, like close up, so that the viewers who are watching from their living rooms, for example, will be able to see the evidence that's being presented.
Oh yeah,
a little closer and stuff like that.
You're adapting, to that. That's amazing to hear that. Let me ask you about. I guess it's chicken or the egg. I mean, whose idea was it to collaborate? Let's call Innovocative, or the other way around. How'd that happen exactly?
Actually, that was me. I called Staci and said, "Hey, I got an idea. What do you think? And here's a show I've got an idea for, and everything." And so we kind of put our heads together to join forces to say this could work and be beneficial for both of us.
But well, let me play devil's advocate though. And I mean, you could have done it without Innovocative. Innovocative could have done something without you. And since this is not an original work, well, it was original once, but
right.
It seems like a natural fit for a collaboration with another company.
Right, and it's sort of what it was. It was like, it's a show that I've liked for a long time.
Yeah.
I wanted to do, but it didn't fit the guidelines of my company.
Sure.
But it sort of fit into Staci's guidelines and Innovocative's guidelines a little more. And so that was what led to, putting it out there to Staci and saying, "Hey, what do you think?
Yeah.
Could we do this?" And then, Staci, Natural Shocks did some really nice things technologically. And so I was like, well, let's, can we learn from all this? We've got the space. We have a house that can be used and everything, and a space to work with. Can we find a way to put these two, join forces and get the best of bang from both companies and give the best to both sets of audiences?
Your tickets are on sale already. Have you sold some of the seats already?
We have. Yeah. We've sold some of both. We heard, how many folks would be interested in, coming out to attend live. But we've sold tickets for people are excited. They want to get back to seeing theater. So, for us, we're presenting live theater in person, and then we're also presenting live theater via the live stream. So we're really excited, as Owen says, partnering. We're using his space here for the in-person, and we're using our YouTube channel for Innovocative for us to stream. And so we're just encouraging people in whatever way they feel comfortable to attend. Some people are thrilled to be able to get out and see live theater in person. Others are like, I'd rather watch from home, and that's cool. We've got both options.
There are 5 performances or 4?
4.
4, okay. Are they all, in other words, they'll all be audience and streamed live? In other words, the streamers don't get the recording from last night?
No, not at all. So,
so if Owen screws up, we're going to see it live?
Yeah, yes. If he farts on stage, you'll hear it.
Yeah, exactly. Tickets are at, are they on both of your websites, Innovocative and Lab?
Yeah. And they're through Eventbrite. So you could go and search directly on Eventbrite underneath the Lintel.
Yeah.
But it's also listed on both of our websites with the link, so you can just go that way as well.
Yeah. Let's talk about the future for in each case. Let's start with you, Owen. You know, are you glass half full, glass half empty? Are you thinking, yeah, beginning of the year, we should probably be starting to rock again? Or are you thinking that far ahead?
No, we are thinking that far ahead, but we are thinking that this is the new normal. Probably, in my mind, we're thinking this is our new normal for at least a year, maybe two. I hate to say it, but I think that's the reality of things until we, as you know, we can come around through this to a different side. Me personally, I don't think the science supports thinking otherwise.
I wonder if at some point, and I hesitate to guess because it's pointless really, you know, instead of having 10 seats, you'll be able to have 25 or 30 in your space.
I think a lot of that obviously depends on, you know, how things roll out with vaccines, how people, you know, so far we've done very well with people accepting and working with masks and being comfortable with attending wearing a mask, and that's a requirement for us. I mean, our requirements here in space are to follow the CDC guidelines. So people are required to wear the mask. We're not doing, I suppose we could go towards the restaurant idea and be at 50%.
Yeah.
But we're not comfortable as a company doing that. So
I hear that from a lot of theaters, you know.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, a lot of theaters aren't even comfortable doing what we're doing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Free fall's not letting anybody in the room.
No, I mean, I think most everybody's kind of at this point not letting anybody in and trying to figure out how to do outdoor performances or streaming outdoor or things like that. And that's fine. You know, we've got to, as an art form, theater always finds a way to adapt. And when we are, by the nature of our art form, adapters. We are collaborative, we adapt, we are constantly having to think on the fly. It's just the nature of the business.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's sort of what's happened. I mean, Lab has always been very adaptive to, every work we do is different, so we have to be adaptive.
Could you see going outdoors?
I could. It's possible. Part of that would be, is it a financially sustainable idea to be outdoors when we have a space we're paying for and we have to sustain? So maybe, it's again, do I want to accrue a new cost when I've got an existing overhead?
Well, of course, I hadn't thought of that, but now that you mentioned it.
I mean, there it is. It's the nature of being a social entrepreneur. You have to constantly bring in the business side of it. As much
as you say, creative people will find a way to create, right? And Staci, let me ask you, what are you thinking about future-wise?
Well, we are looking at lots of different options as well. I think, as Owen said, we're probably, unfortunately, going to be in this situation for a while. So we're looking at more either one-man shows or two-person shows, and the possibility of live streaming. And we are considering and looking at some options of perhaps doing some things outside or collaborating, and finding a space like, when we did Natural Shots, we used someone's basement, as our set.
Well, so, you don't have a permanent home, so that's the expense that Owen was talking about. You don't have.
Right. So I'm actually very fortunate now in that respect.
You weren't before.
Times, I'm like, right, I wish we had our own space, certainly.
Yeah.
But as it stands right now, we can be a little bit more flexible because we don't have, the overhead and the monthly expenses that so many of our theater friends have right now.
Well, do you have plans? I mean, are there shows like, I want to do this. I don't know how we're going to do it, but this is next.
There's a few. I'm not ready to say yet because we're still in the sort of finalized. I have a group of folks, our board and some members who read some plays, and we discuss, the viability of producing them, and especially the viability of producing them in this time. But we are definitely, looking, like I said, I think next season is going to be the season of 1- and 2-person shows continued, so that we can do it in a safe way. Not only just for the audience members, but for our actors as well. keeping our artists safe is important too.
God willing, we're all going to come through this, and we're all going to be on stages together again. You know.
I sure
Yeah.
hope.
Oh man, and you know, I should be terribly depressed. I mean, I speak to so many people in theater and in music and all kinds of performance 5 days a week, and everybody's feeling the same angst and kind of regret and just sorrow. But you're doing wonderful things, and that's the spirit, you guys. Stacy, I want to tell you I had a public sub today. I thought of you, and last time you told me that you like those because you don't like the other ones that we don't talk about anymore.
That's funny. Good memory.
Well, listen, let's recap. The play is Underneath the Lintel, and who's the playwright? What's his name?
Glenn Berger.
Okay, and it's done in tandem with a lab theater project and Innovocative Theater. We're talking here. We're about to say goodbye to Owen Robertson and Staci Sabarsky. It is September 24th through 27th. You can go over to eBoard at Lab's place, and if you're one of the 10 lucky people who get tickets, you get to see it live. Otherwise, you can pay a little dough and see it live streamed.
Yeah,
I'm really intrigued by this show. Sorry?
You can sit in your living room and watch with a glass of wine. So, yeah.
I'd like to sit over at Lab with a glass of wine, but
You're welcome to do
mask
that.
doesn't work though with the mask.
Yeah, it's a little difficult.
So you can check that out. It's on the lab site and on the Innovocative site, and it's Eventbrite is where you get the tickets. September 24th through 27th, 4 shows. Stacy and Owen, thank you.
Thank you.
Absolute pleasure. I wish you guys tremendous luck and break legs and all that wonderful stuff.
Thank you. Thank you so
We
much.
appreciate it.
We'll see you real soon, guys.
All right, you too. Take care. Bye-bye.